How about now? Yeah. Good morning, everybody. We'll check the other mic out in a minute. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living. Very happy that you're here.
The reading from today is from Ernest Holmes. He says, "We should allow the gifts of life to flow out of everything that we touch, everyone that we meet, every situation that we contact. Then wherever we go, every situation is blessed. Every person is helped. Every discord is harmonized without our even being conscious of it."
Well, what do you call this place anyway? Some people call it church. Some of you may like that, some of you may not. Some people call it the center. Some, if we're being formal, we might call it the Center for Spiritual Living. And if you're really cool, you might call it CSL. That sounds cool, doesn't it? If you want to be really cool, you could just call it the place. You could do that. I've heard people call it the community. And I like that word, community. Community sounds sweet, sounds kind, feels kind of warm to me. Now, if you're thinking a community means that it's a place where all differences are erased and everybody thinks in exactly the same way, then, you're going to be disappointed. Because communities, as you know, are made up of people. And you know how people are. I mean, other than you and me, some people are weird. And you know when I say you and me who I'm talking to. Right? You know, yeah. And so sometimes in communities, people have different ideas. They have disagreements. And they also have grace, though. Communities often do. Not always, but they often have grace in a community. And that means there's forgiveness. And it means, okay, I may think something different than you, but we sort of accept that, look over that, and we know there's more important things than just that. And grace often opens up spaces for people to be, maybe people who find it hard to find a place. But in a spiritual community, hopefully they could find a space where they could fit in and feel comfortable and feel loved. Now, I've been in the community business since 1974, so that's a long, long time. And so that's lots of experience with communities and lots of experience with people. And so a community, I understand, is not a static kind of thing. It's not as if, if we could get the spiritual community to this level, then we'd be done. And we could check off, everything's done, everything's finished, this is the perfect community. Because communities don't work that way. Communities are always coming, but never quite arriving. And so even on a weekly basis, things can change. Communities are a lot like you and me. Because one week we may really have it together, and the next week we don't know what's happening. And so people are like that, and communities are like that. For me, communities mean, when a community is healthy, it means that we're open to the journey. I like the word journey because I think life is certainly that. Life is certainly about movement, about moving from point A to point B. Sometimes we don't know what point B might be, but we're at least moving in some kind of direction. So we are, when I think about it like that, when I think journeys, I think that you and I are companions. And I like that word too. You and I are companions. At least this day we are, because I'm here and you're here. So we're companions on the journey, at least for this hour. This group may never be exactly the way it is at this moment. And I'm not going to ask you to look around. I'm looking around. And so this is a special day in the life of a community, because today we are together, sitting together, thinking together, companions. I like words, and so the etymology of companion is nice. It goes back to an old French word, and it means one who breaks bread with others. And so the idea is coming together to break bread. And you and I, although we may not be eating right now, but we do come together sort of to break bread, because we're breaking ideas certainly right now. And so we come together to share. We come together to share our life. We come together sometimes to share death. And we share our ideas and our sorrows and sometimes our joys. And so we come together. You could think of it as a tribe, if you like. A lot of words I don't care for in one way, because a tribe implies we are the tribe and there's others out there. The word church comes from a Greek word ekklesia, and it means the called out group. And so it means the people who have been called out of the people out there here. You see the division in that? Even calling ourselves the center of spiritual living, and I like that name, but that means we're the center of spiritual living. And so those folks out there, I feel sorry for them. But we are inviting them in, after all. But companions, that feels good. That feels good to me. But we need to remember that we are a community with a purpose, because it's really easy to forget that. In a community like this, it's easy to really become fascinated with your own navel. And we could spend hours looking at our navel and maybe get mirrors, and now with our phone, we could take pictures from different angles and really dig into the old navel. But, that never works all that well, because we eventually get really bored with that. And what kind of community is that when we're just staring at our own navel? For God's sake, we need to look at other people's navels. And, we need to be interested in what's happening in the lives of other people. I've never said that before. I think that could be on a shirt. I'm interested in looking at other people's navels. You might buy that. I don't know. So we do have a purpose. And not only do we have a purpose, but you're not alone. Now, I don't know how many people are in here. If I counted, maybe I would come up. I count, if I see someone who's pregnant, I always count her 3 times, just in case twins. So that's how ministers count sometimes. So I'm not going to count, but let's suppose we have 70, 80 people in here right now. Maybe more, maybe 90. Sometimes we think that's all we are, but we're much larger than that. We're much bigger than that as a community. 500,000 people are into Science of Mind. That's a lot of people. But we're much bigger than that too, because if you think New Thought, that kind of thing, we come up with 5 million people. But I'm not going to stop there, because I sort of like the American Baptist folk, and they're quite open to new ideas, and there's a lot of other people are too. So there's large numbers of people that are open and interested in the same purpose that we have, and that is seeing a world that works for everybody. I love the idea, because that means no more suffering, or at least less suffering. It means supporting other people who are different. It means, above all, if I were searching for the ideal characteristic after living this long, I would put kindness way at the top. Kindness. Kindness. All of us could use a little kindness. Glenn Campbell, I think he transitioned not too long ago, wrote a song when he was quite young about kindness and talked about the need for that. But we don't want to lose track and forget that we are people with a vision. We are people with a vision, and it's not your navel or mine. It's much bigger than that. It's much larger than my ups and my downs. Now, my ups and downs are interesting, at least to me. But there's something much larger than the ups and the downs and the ideas and the little disagreements and the little irritations. There's something much larger than that that's happening in this place and in your life and in the entire universe. So you and I are here for a reason. And that reason is compelling. And if you think about that reason and believe that you're contributing to it in some way, you're going to be a much happier person. And you're going to be able to bless all the people you come in contact with. It makes a huge, huge difference. And that means when we make decisions, the first thing we think about is, what is our vision after all? What is our mission? What's our purpose? What is our purpose? And so when we make any kind of decision, even a small one, we want to remember our purpose, right? When we set intentions, we want to remember that. because we're not going to participate in a world that doesn't work. We're for something, but we're against nothing. But we're seeking a world that works for absolutely everybody. 500,000 people, 5 million people. Lots of people, and we're part of all of those people. Now, people, I think, probably want the same kind of things. People want peace and love and joy and bliss, and so people are looking for those things. And so we vision together, we work together, and we do this together. And a lot of it is about education. A lot of it is about educating ourselves and educating people we come in contact with, but it's much deeper and bigger than education. Because above all, it's about consciousness. It is about consciousness. Our real purpose is seeing consciousness rise and change. I see it going from one peak to another. I see it moving from one stage to another. I've been in some of those stages, and I'm in a stage now, and probably you are too. We've moved through some stages, you and I, and there's more to come. But more than anything else, this thing, whatever we call it, is a journey of consciousness. And as we journey, we become more and more accepting of other people. We do. Now, if you get bored with this kind of stuff, it's probably because you've forgotten the purpose. If you remember the purpose, and if I remember the purpose, we would probably be here every Sunday. Because if we really believe we're contributing to this mission, it would be very exciting. It would be very exciting, regardless of what's happening around us, regardless of what problem might come along. We are on target. We are on target. I remember the Sioux people talked about shooting their bow and arrow, and they could shoot under their horse as they're riding. And they talked about how that when the arrow left the bow, it couldn't miss the target, because in their mind they'd already seen it strike the target. And that's what we're doing. We see it already, it's already happened, and we're just kind of moving through it now. But we're already living in a world that works for everybody, but no one sees it yet. But we want to see it, because after all, it is a vision. Now, if you look around, there's lots of stuff happening in the world. I'm not going to talk about politics, but there's lots of things happening in the world. People are talking about hatred. People are talking about statues and race and will this bomb reach this country? And then even the weather is doing some things right now. Lots of things are happening. And when things like that happen, I don't know how you respond, but sometimes I feel scared. Sometimes I feel threatened. Sometimes I feel challenged a bit. And if I feel threatened and challenged, I'll tell you what I usually do, and I'd rather other people not know this, but what I would usually do is look for something outside of myself to comfort me in some way. But sometimes you don't find that. And so then what you have to do is sort of go into your closet. You have to go inside and find that strength inside of yourself when you feel threatened and when you feel scared. But sometimes when you feel that way and you look outside of yourself for something, sometimes you find something. Over the last couple of weeks, I found solace in this community. I don't mind telling you that. I found friendship in this community. I found a person or two that reached out and expressed love to me. I'll never forget that. That's what a community is about. It's about doing that kind of thing with each other. It's about kindness. It's a special kind of thing. Community. A community allows us to find comfort. And that's why we gather like this. You see, that's why else would we come? Because you could listen to a talk on YouTube. There's something about being together that can create something really special and unique, as long as we don't forget the purpose, as long as we're not just getting into the navel syndrome. We want to remember the purpose. We want to remember why we are together. And it does get confusing sometimes. I admit, somebody said, and I don't remember who did. I wish I would have originally said it, but I didn't. But they said, consciousness is like underwear. Now, just that is beautiful. Consciousness is like underwear. Once stretched, it never goes back to its original shape. Mark, it's true. We both know. We both know that's true. And so sometimes we feel stretched. And as our consciousness stretches, it gets larger, and it includes more and more people. It's a good idea. It excludes less people. But sometimes we do feel like we're going backward. But we can't go back now. We've stretched too far. I know of a few people that once they finished high school, they went on a vacation to Europe. Maybe you did that. I think that's wonderful. From where I came from, after high school, nobody went to Europe. No boys, no girls. What they would do in Kentucky, at least in that little southeast corner, is they would say, wow, let's do something really wild and crazy. Let's go camping. Whoa! That's right. And so that's what a buddy and mine, we did. And I remember, and this talk made me think about that. Also, he transitioned not too long ago, and that was kind of a surprise, too. He was my age, and that's young. It's hard to believe. But so we went camping, and the way you do it there is, you know, we were going to do at least 10 days, and we were going to live off the land. And so we had some mighty fine meals. And some meals I thought taste pretty good, and then sometimes you find some grubs under a log and cook them up, make some stew, and you enjoy that. And so that's not bad. That's okay. Neither one of us ate any roaches, I'm happy to tell you, but we ate a lot of other things. But we're traveling. We're going to be out there for maybe 10 days. At least that was the goal, and so we did that. And when you're camping like that, you want to know a couple things. You want to know where you are, and you want to know where you're going. And so, we had a map, and we had a little compass, and we knew a little bit about how to do that, and we could drive a stick in the ground, put a 3-foot stick in there, and we could do a little few things with it and know which direction is which, even if we didn't have a compass. So we thought we were ready, and we thought we were prepared to go and do this. And so we get our bearings, and then suppose, we're going somewhere. We're at one peak, and we're wanting to go to the other peak, and those mountains are big. In eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, you can get lost in those mountains. And so you want to kind of pay attention. And so you want to get your bearings. And so you got your compass, and you're heading in that direction. But you don't want to just walk around with the compass in your hand the whole time, because you want to look around. See, if you're walking and you've got the compass in your hand, you look silly. So you don't want to do that the whole time. So you get it and you aim where you're going, and you decide we're going to that peak. And so we're heading in that direction. Or if you can't do a peak, maybe you do a certain tree or a large rock ledge, and you can see it. And so you're heading in that way. You don't have to carry the compass all the time. Sometimes in those mountains early in the morning, it's very foggy. You can't see where you're going. And so sometimes you just have to kind of figure this is the direction, and I can see a tree not too far up there, but I know that's my direction because I've targeted that out, and so I'm heading toward that, and then maybe the sun will melt off some of the fog and we can continue. Now, I don't know if it reminds you of anything, but see, that reminds me of life. That reminds me of church life, center life. That reminds me of spiritual community life, and it reminds me of just personal life. Because sometimes we're moving and we look back from where we've come and we can't see anything. We look forward to where we want to go, a world that works for everybody, but sometimes we can't see that either. And so what we want to do then is keep moving. And we want to have a compass, and we want to have a map. And a compass would be principles, certain principles that, damn it, we live by those principles. I never ask, how am I feeling? I ask, what are my principles? And my feelings will follow along. Because if you put feelings up front, you may get lost and fall off of a hill or something. So you're wanting to follow the principles. You're wanting to follow the ideas. And you're moving. You're walking. Sometimes, if you're with other people, you might even lose track of people. So that's why if I'm walking and I'm lost, I might say, hey, Betty, I'm not sure where I am. Are you still there? And Betty might say, I'm here, Bill. Oh, that feels better. Because sometimes if you're lost in a fog, you can feel kind of lonely. You might say, we haven't heard anything from Karen. Karen, are you okay? And Karen says, yeah, I'm okay. I'm just eating this cricket or whatever. And so, you see, we can talk to one another. That's what a community is about. We can talk to one another and say, how are you doing? And if you see someone getting lost or kind of getting confused, please reach out to that person, because see, we're all in this together. And where are we going? We're going to a world that works for everybody. And that's our mission. That's our standard. That's what you want to be on your mind every morning when you wake up, because you're going to think, what can I do to help the world that I'm in to be a world that works for everybody? Because if you get sidetracked into something else, you'll forget. And you may even stop walking. And so you've got to keep moving. And I don't know if are you with me on this? I mean, does that make sense to you? And I'll tell you something else. Having that mission is like putting on a jacket when it's cold, because it is protective. It will keep you moving. It will keep you climbing. And you move from one stage of consciousness to another. You move from one peak, and you're at 2,000 feet, and then you go to 2,500, and then you go to 3,000, and then you're at 5,000, and you keep climbing from peak to peak to peak. But sometimes you go down into a dip and you say, what the hell? It's really foggy. It's really dark. I don't know what's going on. I don't even know what I'm doing here. I just want to go back home. Too late to go back home. You got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. And sometimes it's hard to do by yourself. So that's what a community is about. But what's important is you've got to remember that you have that kind. You've got to remember you've got a reason. You've got a reason. You've got a reason to do it. And so I don't have any doubt that we're going to make it to the promised land. And the promised land is the world that works for everybody. And so there's no doubt that we're going to make it, but we do have to remember every single day, I've got a purpose that's larger than me. I've got a purpose larger than me. I've got a purpose larger than my little depression, my little anxiety, or my toes hurting, or my head is hurting, or my ear is aching just a bit. And I can call on all of those things as part of me. But it has to be something large enough to inspire us and to keep us moving. And so a vision, we talk about visioning a lot, but I'll be honest with you, talk is cheap. We can talk it all day long. But vision really deals with what you do. It deals with action. It deals with doing something. Vision means using your eyes and noticing something, seeing something. But that's not how we use vision. When we think of vision, we're talking about something deeper and higher. It's intangible. It's consciousness. And what is consciousness? Consciousness is awareness. And it's manifesting those divine qualities. And what would those be? Kindness, love, forgiveness, joy. And when we move toward our purpose, those are the kinds of things that will bubble up every time. I was thinking about Star Trek, and I know you were thinking, I wonder if you thought about Star Trek this week. I did think about it. And I thought about, guess who? Captain Kirk, of course. But Dr. Spock. Betty and I are right there. See, we're right there thinking about Dr. Spock. And Dr. Spock, if I remember right, is having a conversation with Jim, Captain Kirk. And he's about to die. And Kirk says, "No, you can't do this." And he says, "Jim, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few." And Jim says, "Damn." The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. You might feel sad about that, but that's good news. Because when you hear that and you rise up for others, it gives you tremendous power. And it gives you great, great inspiration as well. Now, we have a vision for what the center can be. There are times when that vision is bright. Yes? And there are times when that vision is dim. Sometimes it's foggy. It is. The vision gets clouded by the number in our membership. Or do we have enough money? Or are the carpets clean? It looks like there's a stain on there. Oh my God. And are we advertising in the right way? And all of those things are important. I would never say ignore any of those things, but there's something larger than all of those things. And that's our vision. Because our vision is so big and so beautiful and so juicy. It's worth your life. That vision that the world works for everybody. And that's what we want to be grounded in. You want the vision to capture your heart. And if it does, then you're going to feel okay. Sometimes you may cry. Sometimes you might get mad. Sometimes you might feel jealous. Sometimes you might, and I could go on with the list, but you'll rise to the top just like a cork if you have that vision. You're like a beach ball. And somebody comes along and they push you down in the water. But as soon as they let go, you pop back up to the surface. And that's what you do because you have a vision and it's inside of you. But you've got to remember that. You're not just a community. You are a community with a vision. So let me begin to close. I was listening to Tony Robbins, and he told a story some time ago. And the story was that he was walking down the road. He'd finished a seminar. He was walking down the road. It's kind of late. And there was it looked like a bum coming toward him. He had a brown paper bag, and I know what that means, and probably you do too. And so Tony thought to himself, this guy's going to ask me for money. And when he got close, he got really close to him, and he said he could smell him. You know, he was certainly drunk. And he said to Tony, "Could you loan me a quarter?" And Tony said he has a policy. He made this policy years before. The policy was if somebody asked him for help, even if he thought they were cheating them, he was going to help them anyway. I love that. I would do the same thing. I like that. And so he pulled out a money clip, and it had a $100 bill in it. Now, he said his mentor, Jim Rohn, had taught him to carry a money clip, put $100 on the outside. You could put several ones inside, but you have it there so that when you look at it, you think, I'm abundant. I could do anything. And so it reminds you of that. Abraham said the same thing, that you do something like that. So Tony said he took the money clip out so the man could see it. So he could see at least $100 there. And then he reached in his pocket and he felt he had a quarter. And he said, "Is a quarter all you want?" And the man looked at the clip and looked at Tony and looked at his hand in his pocket. And he said, "Yeah, just a quarter." So he gave him the quarter. and walked on. And said he walked on thinking, how does this happen? I mean, here I am living a good life, and here's this man in his 60s begging for quarters. What makes the difference? And I've wondered that too, because I'm driving down the road and there's a man standing on the side of the road with a sign that says, give me some money. And I think, now, that could be me. Why am I in the car and he's over there? Could be reversed. And Tony said he thought to himself, maybe it's just because I'm so nice. And he said, no, that's not why. And what he told the man as he handed him the money, and I want to give you this quote. He said to him, as he handed him the quarter, sir, life will pay you any price that you ask for. And he said, as the man walked off, he looked back and said, you're weird. But Tony concluded the reason his life was different than the other person was because he was asking for more. So we want to be in the habit of asking for a world that works for everybody, not just in Japan or Korea or Germany or Russia or Washington, but right next door, your neighbor, people you bump into, people you work with. We want to be in the habit of asking for something beautiful. I mean, do you want life to give you a quarter, or do you want something else? And it really comes down to what we're asking for. And we want to ask intelligently. And let me tell you 3 things to do to ask intelligently. And I'm going to give you 3 letters, RPM. I think of the storm right now, RPM, spinning, energy. You can think of your car, RPMs, energy, power. And so you want to have a strong RPM system spinning, giving you alignment in your energy, because that's how you create a world that works for everybody. RPM, and each letter, of course, stands for something. R stands for results, and this is going to be quick, so listen. You want to know what results you're after. You want to know what you're wanting in your life. Precisely, specifically, you want to know what you're asking for. So when you wake up in the morning, you're going to think and meditate and ask, this day, I'm going to ask this from life. That's R. Results. P would be your purpose. And what that means is, as soon as you say, I want this from life, life is going to present a big why in front of you. And so obstacles will come, and life is going to say, what are your reasons for this? You're asking for that. What reasons do you have? And most of us stumble around and can't think of any. And when we can't think of any, nothing is going to happen. So we have the result and we have our reasons. Listen, this is great wisdom. You ready? Reasons always come before answers. Reasons always come before answers. So you want to have your reasons for what you're asking for. And you want to have more than one. You want to have strong reasons. I am asking for a world that works for everybody. And life is going to get really close to your face and say, why? And you want to have some answers. R, P, and then M is massive action. Most of us say, I want this, and maybe we have a why or two reason why, but then we just lie on the couch and we don't do much. And so there must be action. We must take action in some way. So you know your results, you know your purpose, you know what your massive action is going to be. And so now let me coach you for just a moment, and we're setting just you and me in an office, and I lean over and look into your eyes and I say, so what action are you going to take this afternoon? And then I stop talking and you start thinking. So let me stop talking for a moment and you start thinking. Not what action next week. What are you going to do today, this afternoon? What do you want? Why do you want it? What are you going to do? Make the world a better place. And the second question is, what are you going to do on Monday? You don't want to wait till Monday to do something. But you do want to wake up on Monday with an idea of what you are going to do. What really makes what shifts a congregation like this? Do you know what shifts a business? Do you know what shifts a life? Making a decision. I made decisions years ago, and because of that, my life is what it is today. You did the same thing. You made decisions, and your life is the way it is today because of those decisions. But you can make a new decision now, and it will shift everything. And so you've got to know what you want. You've got to know your why, and then you've got to do something. So I'm going to ask you for just a moment to close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, I'm going to sneak up right beside you, and I'm going to whisper in your left ear. And I'm going to say, what are you going to do? What are you going to do today? And what are you going to do on Monday? And what are you going to do this week? It can be small. It could be large. I see powerful things happening in our lives. Sometimes we're in the fog and we can't see where we came from and where we're going. We don't care. Because we've got a compass. We know the direction. And we have feet, and our feet are working well, and we keep walking. We keep climbing. Everything is good. Everything's just perfect the way it is. Everything is just right. It's just the way it's supposed to be. That's why we came here. It's perfect. Perfect. And so we are thankful. A few weeks ago, and I just give this as an example, hadn't planned to. Your eyes are still closed, right? A few weeks ago, someone scammed me out of quite a bit of money. And my big question kept coming, not, are you stupid, Bill? Or what's wrong with you? How did you fall for that? I didn't ask that. I asked, what can I learn from this? And because of that, I have found more love. I have found more wisdom. And I have found more compassion. I'm thankful for that. Life is perfect. Perfect. So what are you going to do to lift it, to love, to make it better? A world that works for everybody. That's worth our lives. And please say with me, and so it is. Thank you very much.